This is Gen X Amplified episode number 7. And coming up, we have another great episode that is so full of value because we are going to chat about overcoming self-doubt in your career and how to become a better leader in the workplace. So are you ready? Let's do it.
For people who are intimidated, find your spot. If you are a one-on-one person and you thrive when it's one-on-one conversation and you can't handle this group thing, play to your strength.
Welcome to Gen X Amplified, where we bring you inspirational and entertaining conversations with successful Gen X leaders and entrepreneurs.
This is the show created just for you. The powerful generation between the boomers and millennials to help you amplify your story,
Maximize your impact,
and become Gen Exceptional in business and in life.
Now, here's your host, Adrian Porter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Amplified. And I'm really excited because we are going to dig in deep and talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. That's personal branding. So my guest, after a decade working for Intel, he spends most of his time helping corporations and their employees build personal brands for business growth. He is a speaker, an author, and certified life coach. Now, he recently launched an online community called No More Reasonable Doubt, which is focused on helping young professionals of color build soft skills and have more impact in the workplace. And he is also a familiar face at many marketing and leadership conferences, helping attendees build better relationships through the power of networking. And that's actually where I met him, at a conference this year. And he can often be seen rocking one of his spiffy bow ties. Please welcome today's Gen Exceptional guest, Mike Ambassador Bruny. Mike, what's going on?
Nothing much. Thank you so much for having me.
Likewise, man. I love first of all, I love the name Ambassador. All right. So was that something that, you know, your mother was that she saw so far ahead in the future that she gave you that, or how did you get Ambassador?
I'll give her that credit, but no. The truth, there's like this, the quick story is, hey, it's who I be. I run in different circles. I love to connect people. A little bit deeper story is that I ran a vision board party a number of years back, and I told people, come as you wish to be in 10 years. So some people came as judges, some people came as, different things that they want to be. And a mentor of mine, Andre Taylor, who's a business dude out of New York, came, and he was our speaker. This was all at my home. And later on, I went to a branding session he was holding. And he was asking for words that we used to describe ourselves. And he's the one who kind of said ambassador because the way he saw people hanging on my words and moves when I had the event at my home. So I took that, I sat on it for a long time, and then I decided to own it.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Now you just said something that I haven't heard before. So that's a vision board party?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just make it up as I go.
Now you have to explain. I mean, I know what a vision, and what a vision board is, and for those of you in the audience, I want to make sure, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. So that's something like you can do on a poster board. Is basically you cut out different images or things from magazines, and you pretty much craft kind of something that helps you envision where you want to be in the future, right?
Exactly. Now imagine doing that with a bunch of friends. That's all a vision board party is. I invited, I'm in Massachusetts. I had friends come from New York and some people from the Massachusetts area. I had a bunch of magazines, and everything is like so multi-purpose. We had to get rid of these magazines. I had way too many magazines.
Okay.
But we had these magazines here. People could bring their own. I brought all the craft stuff, the scissors, the glue, the glitter, bought the poster boards, and it was go to town, people. Have a great time, and create together.
That is all right. That is so part of definitely your brand. And I mentioned a little earlier in the intro, so that you are a familiar face at all these conferences. And that's actually where I first met you officially. Now I've heard about you through other podcasts, and I was like, okay, I got to meet this brother. He seems very on top of things. And you were working with Michael Stelzner at the conference at Social Media Marketing World.
Yes.
And we got a chance to meet, which was a great conference, by the way. And for those of you that are listening in, Mike was definitely a critical part and added a lot of value to the conference. And you were the official, what is it, networking? What was the name?
Ambassador, the conference networking ambassador.
See, it's all about the brand.
It's all about the brand.
And you got on stage and you literally just talked about the importance of networking. And many of you know, we go to these conferences and a lot of us, we go with great intentions, but a lot of us that may be introverts or even extroverts that somehow when we get among all these different people, many of them we admire, we've seen, or we don't even know, we clam up. And you really focused on underlining the importance of networking and not taking those 2 days for granted. So I love what you were saying, and I loved your approach. So that was a really cool thing.
Thank you.
So let's take a step back, and you briefly talked about the vision board party, but I would love for you, Mike, to just kind of dive into your personal journey a little bit and how it led you to what you're doing now with your brand, your focus, and again, just building your business.
And now most of my focus is on No More Reasonable Doubt, building a community for young professionals of color.
Okay.
And right now I'm just honing in the focus of that around young professionals of color who are just starting out at work.
Okay.
So they're new to the career and all the things that they don't know.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we are now.
And how did you kind of talk about your path of getting to that point? And then also, what was that transformational moment that really led you to launching No More Reasonable Doubt?
Excellent. Great questions. I'll give you guys a quick overview.
Okay.
And actually all this led to No More Reasonable Doubt. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York to Haitian parents. Went to school upstate New York, Hartwick College, where I studied psychology undergrad, played football, ran track, was really involved in a lot of different things there. Went into sports. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I had this background in sports, so I got a master's in sport management after interning a year at Syracuse University in their athletic department.
Okay.
So I got this master's degree. Then I went on to work in sports for a number of years. I worked at Syracuse again. I worked at UConn. I worked at New Balance, which is what brought me to Massachusetts. And then from there, I worked for a startup, and then I ended up working at Intel as an operations manager.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then later on, becoming a employee brand ambassador for them.
The employee brand ambassador for Intel. Now, what is that? No pun intended. Intel, being a brand ambassador for a company like Intel.
Basically what it means is that I'm an employee who got trained in storytelling. And what they were really trying to do is connect people internally and externally to almost like the human side of Intel and the brand of Intel, the mission of Intel. Because Intel is an ingredients company. They may now, I don't know. But we don't make phones. We don't make computers. We make what goes inside of it. So it's easy to ignore, if you will. And it was trying to get people to understand more about Intel. And I was a disgruntled employee, if I was really honest. And having a disgruntled manager is not cool because you got people who are working for you. I was always professional, but there was always something there until I took a couple of steps, worked in a couple of different areas, HR, and then I got recommended to be a brand ambassador. And a lot of that was because of my brand that I already built. So they looked and saw, oh, look, Ambassador Bruny, that's his Twitter handle. That was there before Intel. They thought I created that for them.
Oh, wow.
This program, but I already had it going. So I kind of laughed when I was approached because I was already on that trajectory. And so it allowed me to take information back from corporate and bring it back to take from corporate and bring it back to my location in Massachusetts, let them know here are the different technologies. They would sometimes give me different technology to play with and demonstrate to people because we really wanted to make the connection between what the people were doing day to day and the bigger mission. And for me, when I understood the mission of Intel, to have our technology touch the lives of every single person on the planet,
right?
You can get up in the morning for that.
Right.
That was different from what I was doing before, which was more like the old Dunkin' Donuts, like time to make the donut. That was a huge shift. So then there's Intel, and Intel, where I was working in Massachusetts, shut down. So I was without a job, and so I was always doing my own thing, side hustling, coaching. So
right.
that's what I worked on.
Well, just quickly. So did that brand ambassador role at Intel, was that something that was in existence prior to you, or did it launch with you?
I had nothing to do with it launching.
Okay.
Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So no confusion there. There were about like 200 brand ambassadors all over the country,
Right.
all over the U.S. actually. Yeah, all over the U.S. who were charged with spreading goodwill about Intel and showing the human side. And I was still doing my regular job, but I also had this on. And then I saw this opportunity to become a chief brand ambassador. That role became open.
Okay.
And I wasn't qualified for that position just based on numbers, like grade level. So if I'm a 5, it had to be at least a 7.
Okay.
And there's all kinds of lessons in that, because when you're doing a job that you don't enjoy, you're not going to progress. So when you see other opportunities, it may become difficult to take a jump. But what I did do is I asked to offer my time and work for them. And I did all kinds of networking, flew out to Portland, spent some time with the person I knew I had to spend some time with. And later on, I pitched him on, hey, why don't you take me on full time to work on this? It didn't cost him anything because Massachusetts was still paying me. And then that kind of ended once Massachusetts closed down. So
Okay.
I got laid off at that point.
Okay.
So
a very common story, especially for Gen
Yes.
Xers being laid off. I've been there. So,
Yes. Very, very common. And it's one of those things that you have to know how to handle that.
Right.
That's just it. Like, consider that the new norm,
Right.
if you will.
Right. So you got laid off from Intel.
Yep. So laid off from Intel, started doing a bunch of project work, working in branding, doing some community work with Pam Slim, Michael Margolis, doing the Social Media Examiner. So I was doing all those things, and just something hit me. I was like, there's something I feel like I've been denying, and that's been working with my own people, African American or professionals of color. And I was just like, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to deny that. And I really sat down and I thought about it. Part of it was saying, oh, they don't have the money,
Right.
which was, I didn't do any research on that.
Right.
But when I sat down and I looked at my own career, I noticed there were a lot of shadow things that were hanging around. A lot of times that I sat and I felt like, hey, am I good enough? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? And I didn't really have the words for it when I was creating No More Reasonable Doubt. I just went forward, but it hit me. It came out of a LL Cool J song. And it goes...
Which song? Are you okay.
I'm going to sing it for you.
No, you got to sing it for you. You got to do it, man.
So it's when I'm alone in my room, sometimes I stare at the wall, and in the back of my mind, I hear my conscience call right there. That articulated for me.
Okay, you just took me back. This is probably a first. You just bust the "I Need Love" and okay, especially for all you Gen Xers, you know that song. Okay, so that oh yeah, the little keyboard part.
Yep.
So now you get all right. So you heard those lyrics and it sounds like that was your transformational moment.
Well, I was already moving forward.
Got it.
Helped me with articulation.
Got it.
Helped me with articulation. That's like, that is it. Is that no matter how you show up, it's what happens when you're alone in your room and your conscience calls.
Okay.
What are you telling yourself? What are you going through? And that's kind of what it just helped me to articulate more. I already moved forward because I was like, you know what? One is the stuff that I've been dealing with personally as a young professional of color. And looking at there's times where I've created from my history and not necessarily from my imagination.
Okay.
And that to me was a problem.
Okay.
I wanted to expand, and that's why I do a podcast, because I want to give more exposure to people so they can go, oh snap, I didn't even know that was possible.
Well, let's dive in a little more into that, because I think that's fascinating. So just taking a step back a little bit. So you worked at Intel, you were laid off. You mentioned earlier that you were a disgruntled employee, and I'm sure there's many of those disgruntled employees that are listening in, which is the reason why we have this platform, why you have your podcast. And you were thinking about, all right, I really want to be a voice and help and add value to people of my own people of color.
Yes.
Now, was that something you were struggling with like for years or for months, where you were going back and forth? I mean, or was it something like, what kept you from moving forward to really focusing in on that particular niche?
I think that the thing that I mentioned before, making up that there was no money.
Okay.
And one of the things I talk about is keep learning, right? But the thing with learning is you have to take insight and you must have a filter, because you can pick up a book that tells you you must go left. You can pick up a book that tells you you must go right. And what I was finding is that I was doing my different work coaching, and then I would run into certain entrepreneurs, professors, entrepreneurs, and I'd have discussions. And it really became a discussion that was less around doing work that you were passionate about. Mm-hmm. It was more about doing work that will give you money, that will build a business. What's the problem? What's the problem? Do they know they have a problem? The end.
Right.
And that's one way to do it. It is a way to do it. Is there a problem? Do they know they have a problem? Because if you see someone with a problem, but they don't acknowledge it, they're not going to give you any money. So that kind of stuff is what I was struggling with. There was so much information, information overload. So it kind of was covering up. It was covering up my own voice in a sense.
Right. Oh, no, that's awesome. And, I think that moment when you already had the idea, you had the passion, you knew exactly what you were meant to do. And then all of a sudden you had that moment of clarity as far as message, and you hear the Cool J, doing his thing. At that point, when you got that clarity, after hearing those lyrics, after really understanding how to package it, how was it? How did you feel at that moment? I mean, how did you really, the next day? How was your mindset when you said, okay, this is it, and it's full guns ahead?
Two quick things. It definitely wasn't that, I'll use the word calculated, if you will,
okay.
But it definitely didn't take place that smooth. It's like little pieces of stuff happening here and there. And then I realized, this whole thing about not being able to monetize, I figured out a way, this online piece and a way of doing it with a community. So all these little pieces started to come together, and then I just moved forward, and then LL Cool J song came on, and I was like, oh, snap. That goes into what I'm working on right now. Mm-hmm. As far as feeling, it's this feeling of liberation. It's this feeling of I can do what I want to do. Mm-hmm. I can do what I want to do and figure out a way to do it. That was the feeling. I'm still working on it. Trust me.
Right.
I'm still working on different parts of the business model, but that was the feeling. It's just a way. And I keep talking about, or not keep talking about, but I'll mention Tupac when he came from prison, mm-hmm. and then he just started going song after song, right. Song after song. That's why right now, is he still alive? And there was that feeling for me. It's like, oh my gosh, you know how much I have to share with this audience?
Right.
Forget about it. Everything that I've learned to this point is for you. Everything. All the connections I've made is for you, young professionals of color. That's how it felt. I have a perspective as a manager. So when you're beefing with your manager, I'm going to help you to see a different perspective without emotion in it. Not getting emotionally tied up in the person, but what is your manager thinking? I have all that for you, young professional of color. Mm-hmm. And that is that's a great feeling.
No, I love that. And, the name No More Reasonable Doubt, obviously, it's very powerful. It resonates. And, how would you, so let me take a step back. How would you describe your business model? So you have No More Reasonable Doubt. Mm-hmm. So kind of walk us through, if, a young professional of color hears the name, stumbles on your website, how can you help me? How does No More Reasonable Doubt help that disgruntled person of color in the workplace or even outside of the workforce, maybe trying mm-hmm. to start their own thing? What is the business model, and what are the pockets of value?
Definitely. And now you don't have to be disgruntled at all, because you could also just be straight up passionate mm-hmm. and maybe frustrated. How do I get things done?
Got it.
So they find us. It's about community. So there's a private Facebook space that they can get together with some other folks who are already down with this. Mm-hmm. There's coaching, because I spent nearly a decade as a speaker. So let's say I come in and I speak to you on Monday, and you all riled up, you're ready to go. But then you have an issue on Friday. Most likely you're not going to reach out to me. Mm-hmm. You're not connected. So what I did is added a free group coaching piece to it, where every other Tuesday I'm on a call and people can come and bring whatever they have going on in their career or life. So then that way they feel supported. They know they continually have people who have their backs. If you're like me, I couldn't go to mom. I couldn't go to dad because they haven't worked in the places that I where I was.
Right.
There's a lot they could provide me, but not in this space. And then sometimes it's just too close. The people who you have to share, ask questions, it just feels too close. They're too invested in it. So they may not give you the kind of feedback that you really need. So those are things. We're working on courses that we can provide, and then there's the content itself in terms of the exposure through the interviews with different professionals of color who work in different fields. So then I'm hoping the audience will go, "Oh snap! I didn't even know that was possible. Oh snap! I didn't know I could do it that way." So those type of things. Those are the value pieces that we're bringing to the people.
Now that's great. The private Facebook group, obviously that's a free platform because it's through Facebook, and sounds like the other access vehicles for coaching and content. Is it a monthly fee? Is it a yearly fee? How does that revenue model break down?
Great question. The coaching, there's a paid coaching opportunity, and then the community. I'm working right now on the actual building out into a membership platform. And what I wanted to do is actually just provide more value and more content before I did that.
And actually, I made a big mistake. My own a mistake that I try not to do is I said fee. Actually, I should say investment.
There you go.
I caught myself after I said it. But to those of you listening, it's an investment, not a fee, an investment. So that's great. So all right. So the coaching program, the Facebook group, and what to me is really appealing about No More Reasonable Doubt is the community aspect of it. Again, it's not just one-on-one. You're bringing, again, going back to your personal brand and who you are as an ambassador. You're bringing together like-minded individuals that share common pain points, people of color, and be able to, I guess, feed off each other, especially within a group setting like Facebook or even on your platform. Correct?
Yes. Another thing that I think is worth noting in just terms of why this whole thing got started, I kind of mentioned my own personal stuff. Yeah. I also ran across a lot of people, young professionals who were really, really smart. Some Ivy League, some great schools, but they were still dealing with these underneath issues. So I was like, oh, okay, it's not just me.
What are some of those underneath issues? How would you describe those?
Sometimes it's depression. Okay. Everything looks great on the outside, but they're going through depression. Sometimes they have pressure from home, as far as they're being the first, or home or self-pressure, as far as being the first to be whatever, to graduate school, to be in a certain position. You have the how do I deal as being the only one in my company or in my division, and not necessarily knowing where to turn to. So those are some of the things that kind of showed up. And what I found is connecting with them. Sometimes I had resources that could help them. So I knew there was an opportunity for like community, and then also looking to as I expand, to bring on different people to help with the coaching, who have different experiences, because there's a proverb my dad used to always share with me, and it was like si jeunesse savait, si vieillesse pouvait, which basically means if the young knew and if the old could, and it's that understanding of that. So there's a lot of unpacking I'm still doing, but that runs underneath there as well. It's like, we have this knowledge, we have this energy, let the two meet.
I love that. You said
let the two meet.
The proverb again, that was if the young knew.
If the young knew, if the old could.
If the old could, okay.
Yeah, and there may be one in English. There may be an actual one, or it's the negative connotation is youth is wasted on the youth. Like something like youthfulness is wasted on the youth, because as you get older, you gain this knowledge, but you may not have the same energy to do it. So now, if we can help some other folks kind of get things going, that's gonna be extremely powerful, and people are looking for ways to give back. So.
Now, what has the response been so far since the launch of No More Reasonable Doubt? Have you gotten any? I'm sure you've gotten a lot of feedback from either members or external feedback. Has it been primarily positive? Have you gotten some great, I guess, constructive feedback?
I've gotten mostly positive feedback. I'm still working on getting that group membership, the paid membership part. I kind of did a beta. So we have, at the moment, we have about 35 people who are part of that group in the Facebook group. There's an opportunity for increased engagement. I see it. And what they don't know, that like this is so important to me, and community is not about what can I take. It's not about what can I take, and it's not about just watching. I don't play that. Go somewhere else for that, because so this group is probably going to be my bounce stuff off of group, but I'm going to build a different group with very clear rules that this is like a potluck. You don't bring anything, you don't eat.
Right.
30 days in, if you don't say hello to someone who just came in, if you don't share when there's a question of, hey, what are you struggling with this week, or what are you trying to get done this week? Why be here?
Right.
Why be here? There's plenty of places you can be. So that's some of the stuff that I've discovered, throughout the time. But I have gotten a lot of good feedback. A lot of good feedback from the folks who actually end up interviewing. Some people say yes, and the only reason they say yes is because they see where it's going, who this is for, and they're like, this is totally different. I get asked to be on podcasts all the time, but this is for a very specific audience, and I love that you're doing that.
Awesome. No, I think it is a much needed platform. I was immediately impressed when, I reached out to you and I dug a little bit more into, No More Reasonable Doubt. It's definitely filling a void. And, when I think about the audience for this podcast, and specifically with Gen Xers, and even for the podcast here, I get millennials listening in as well, because they're always thirsty for great leadership and content. But when you think about that Gen Xer, especially of color, maybe that 35-year-old or 38-year-old or even 43-year-old that may be disgruntled or may not be disgruntled, but are feeling stuck, not sure how to best articulate, what they need to say to their manager or to the millennial that they're working with. Because as we both know, in the workforce, millennials are definitely coming in. They're not taking, but they're accurately going for those mid-level jobs or entry-level jobs. So you have that Gen Xer, that 38-year-old who may be in lower management or middle management and not sure how to properly communicate to that millennial team member to be a great team player, or just how to build their personal brand for their own professional growth. What would you say to them, Mike, to that Gen X leader who specifically are struggling with defining, who they are, how to best build their brand, how to better network, especially someone of color, how to best network at events, at work events, or even outside of work? What advice would you give them? And also adding on to that, Mike, how can they better lead the next generation, the millennials, or even the Gen Zs of the world?
Okay, so starting with the kind of building your brand and feeling, hey, not necessarily knowing what's going on.
Right.
So I ran a program called Brand Inside a Brand. And at the end of the day, all it was my story at Intel. It's how I built my brand while I was still working for a brand, and how that helped me to get different opportunities inside of the company. And I usually tell people to focus on four things. One is to really take an assessment, know who the players are, who the haters are, who the people who are going to advocate for you. You need to know what's going on in your environment. Start building relationships. And for me, that really is just around learning how to ask for a coffee. Let's just grab a coffee, 15-minute coffee.
Right.
Those type of things, building community. So that's paying attention to what people may be speaking about but doing nothing about.
Okay.
So being able to say, hey, why don't we get together? We all feel this way. Why don't we get together and have some coffee and kind of work from there. Learning how to manage time or your energy really, and making decisions around that, and then managing projects. So sitting and seeing when you're in meetings, what are the things that when they go, hey, anyone want to take this on? And everyone kind of looks away. It's like, please don't look at me. To say yes to that.
Right.
Say yes to that. And look for projects that either A, help you to grow, or B, just help you to get exposure. Who else, asking the question, who else is on the team so far? And then seeing if those people are the players. Because sometimes you may have hidden skills or talents, and you want to look for opportunities to to show that to people. So those are some of the things that I talk about. And then lastly, I talk about lead, and that is leveraging social media. Which a lot of times people think personal branding, they think social media, but leveraging that to start to make connections inside and outside of your company across silos. Being as me serving as a brand ambassador for Intel, boy, we'd sit at meetings and we'd have questions and things going around, and I'd go, okay, cool. And I send an email to someone in California to find out how do they handle it. And being able to come back and say, oh yeah, my friend Charlie, this is the way they do it in California. And now multiply that by also saying, here's how they do it at Nike. Here's how they do it at, different industries.
Right.
So starting to build those. And that takes us right into networking. And a couple of things that I've discovered over time, sometimes you just don't feel like going. You just don't feel like going to you just don't.
Right.
You just don't.
Right.
But
to the bar after work, after hours.
It could be the bar. It could be whatever, the association meeting.
Right.
But things happen when you show up. Things happen when you show up. Just go. Just go. And there's all kinds of little things that we can talk about. But the bigger picture is be human. You nervous? Let people know. Yeah, I'm a little nervous being here. No one else from my company. Be human. People connect with that more than it actually repels. That's what I found. So those are some of the things. Finding ways to stay in touch with people.
Right.
I use a tool called Contactually. That's one of the tools that I really like to use that can give you a reminder.
Okay.
You can set a reminder, let's say 30 days. So then you can touch base with people and it becomes a set it and forget it. And it's as simple as saying, hey, just checking in, seeing how things are going in your world.
Right.
And sometimes that sparks people to go, oh yeah, Charlie, I forgot. We have this project going on. Would you be interested in it?
This is a lot of great stuff. When it comes to professionals of color, there's that intimidation factor. When you're really struggling with networking,
I want to help the person who feels intimidated. I really, really do. Because what I do with any work that I do, before I step forth and I give you maybe objectives or what have you, I start with intention.
Okay.
An intention for me is closing my eyes and thinking, what do I want to give? And in anything with networking, it is about ease. I wish you ease. That is my role as someone who teaches networking, is to show people how good they already are. Case in point, people come to me and say they're an introvert. And the first question I ask them, what does that mean to you? Because I know introverts, the meaning of introvert to me, where you get your energy, where you get the most energy from. It may mean you have to be alone. It doesn't mean that you don't like to connect with people. So don't make that up. My nephew, little Johnny, who's not so little anymore, depending on what subject you talk to him about, you'd be like, okay, this guy doesn't really talk much. But you talk to him about anything that has to do with animation and illustration, you can't get the guy to shut up. Taking inventory of the things that you can't shut up about is important. Taking inventory, I have an acronym called WHEN that I tell people. I actually did a study. I did a study around conference networking, and the biggest thing people had issues with was I feel like I don't have anything to offer. And I told them to take inventory, and the acronym is WHEN. Look at your work history, all the different places you've worked. That may be helpful. Look at your hobbies, the things you geek out on. That may be helpful. Look at your education, and not just formal in classroom education, but what are you learning? That sometimes you may have a helpful tip. And then lastly is N, networking, and that's looking at who are the people you know that you may be able to connect other people with.
Wow.
So those are my tips for people who are intimidated. Find your spot. If you are a one-on-one person and you thrive when it's one-on-one conversation and you can't handle this group thing, play to your strength. You look in a group. I'm gonna totally shift your perspective right now. You look at a group. Your sole mission is to look at who is the person who's cool enough to connect with you. Who do you want to connect with? All right, cool. Let the group be. Go talk to John, who you think is a person you want to connect with. Say, hey, John, I'd love to connect for a little bit, man. Maybe later. Play to your strength. Don't get caught up in what everyone else is doing. Play to your strength. Play to your strength.
Wow. And that's why they call you ambassador.
Man, I'm just doing the work, man. I'm just here for the work.
No.
The name can go away. The work's the same.
The work is the same. I love, you dropped some major, some tweetables there. I love, so I just have to reinforce it for the audience. Take inventory of the things you can't shut up about. I mean, that find your swing, find that thing, and your great acronym, find your win. Work history, W, hobbies, education, and networking. Love it. And you do those things, as Mike said, you will have no more reasonable doubt, right?
That's right.
That's right. So this is awesome. So before I let you go there, Mike, there are two questions that I always ask the Gen Xers, the Gen X Amplified guests on the community at the end of the show.
Let me interrupt for one quick second if you
let's
don't
do
mind.
it. No, hey,
tell me.
going.
I'm good on time. You tell me.
No, I'm good.
I also jotted down around being a better leader.
Oh, love it. And
I jotted that down, and it's extremely, extremely important.
It's very important. Love it. Let's do this.
Now, with 8 years of management, I've spent a lot of time sucking at management.
Okay.
I've had people come to me when I first started and said, "Hey, I'm leaving this position, and the reason I'm leaving is because of you." Part of the reason I'm leaving is because of you. So,
wow.
I'm not coming from up on high. I'm coming from someone who has done a number of things. Mm-hmm. Someone who's discovered that your motivation ain't, and I know that's not correct, ain't their motivation.
It's correct for the show. It's all good today.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
I'm a former athlete.
Right.
That means that you give me a challenge, I'm ready to go. Mm-hmm. That doesn't work for everybody. I had a female employee who I almost got called on harassment because I would go, "What, you can't do it?" I would use this kind of what would get me going to try and get her going. It don't work that way. So be very clear about that. As you go to lead people, you need to understand what their fire is. So I started leveraging a lot of my life coaching skills, and I started asking people what they care about. What would they be doing if time and money wasn't an issue? Mm-hmm. Where do they want to be in their career? How do they want to be remembered? Because when you have that information, when opportunities come up, you can start to match people with the right opportunity. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. You want to lead people. Bravado, for me, forget about it. Be human. I had a guy one time, I had to complete his time card by X amount of time to do something, and I did not do it. He came to me and said, "Mike, you didn't do this. This is going to impact me this way, this way." Mm-hmm. I looked at him, I said, "I screwed up. I'm sorry." And he did not know what to say. He was speechless. And he muttered under his mouth, he said, "You said sorry." People don't take responsibility like that. Mm-hmm. So taking responsibility. Teach your people as a leader, show people what you mean and what you're saying. And I mean literally put people in rooms and draw out on whiteboards. Because it's clear. Are we all on the same page? Are we seeing the same thing? Because I've managed people who had conflicts and they were not seeing the same things.
Right.
So it's extremely important. The other thing I've learned in my time of leadership and training as a leader is that when you're getting those people together, is getting people to actually write things down when they have conflict to show what's going on, what's the beef on both sides, and when did it happen. Mm-hmm. People are holding on things that happened 2 years ago. They're holding on to things that happened 2 years ago. So I carry with me, people are more like rivers than lakes. They are forever changing. Wow. They are flowing. They are in motion.
Say that. Say that again. That was.
People are more like rivers than lakes. Awesome. They are forever in motion. You need to check in. You need to check in and know where they are. If I could refer one book that's sitting right here, it's called The Servant. Okay. And the main takeaway is about love. You ain't got to like everybody, but you have to love them. And love meaning you have to be willing to take the steps and do what you have to do for that person you don't like. That employee, that person you're leading, you don't like them, but you know what they need right now, and you need to do that. That is your responsibility as a leader, to love them. You ain't got to like them, but love them.
You talk about value, especially for my audience, and there are a lot of leaders listening in, especially Gen Xers, And even if you're a millennial or a boomer, being a leader is something you have to work on. And I know Mike has just given you a lot of directional value. And I think for me, the main takeaway is be human and show and just don't tell. And really just be real, just be authentic, be a true leader. And a lot of times people, in my experience, misunderstand leadership with just having a certain number of followers. And it's more about influence, and all of those things that you mentioned really helps enhance influence. So I think that was great. And thank you for really focusing and bringing it back to that conversation, focusing on the leadership asset, because that is so important. So we could talk for hours, man, but this is good.
Your two questions.
No, this is great stuff. Hey, this is great stuff. The first one, you may have actually answered one of the questions, but we'll see. So the first one, which you didn't answer this one, but this is a little fun one. So Mike, if there was a song that would play every time you enter a room or when you walk down the street that fits the story of you, your brand, the brand of Mike Ambassador Bruny, what would that be? Basically, what would be your own personal theme song besides I Need Love? Because we already said that. What would be your own personal theme song?
It's interesting because I'll tell you what comes to mind right away, and then there are like lyrics that are different from the song.
Okay.
But the song that comes to me right away is actually I'm a hustler, baby. I just want you to know it ain't where I've been, but where I'm about to go. Like that.
Yeah.
So
that was a great Pharrell you just did on that Jay-Z track. No, that was pretty good. Okay, I'm a hustler. All right.
So that's.
And I was gonna ask you, and I always ask why that song, but to me, I guess it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's just this forward-looking.
Got it.
You ain't seen nothing yet. Type of vibe to go off of.
All right, love that. And then lastly, if there was one, I was going to ask you if there was one specific tool or resource, Mike, whether it's a book, website, or mobile app that you recommend, particularly to Gen X leaders and entrepreneurs that are looking to build their brand, their business, or again, just become a better leader. What would it be? Now, you mentioned two tools earlier. Contextually and the book The Servant. But if there's another tool or resource you would recommend, what would it be?
What I'm really vibing with right now is a book by Ryan Holiday called The Obstacle is the Way.
Okay.
And that's just like it's about shifting perspective.
Wow.
It's about shifting perspective. It's about not getting distracted, man. There's a lot of distractions out there.
Yeah.
You're focusing on the wrong thing. And it's easy to get distracted, but to see, okay, this happened. You have no control over this.
Mm-hmm.
You better focus on the other thing.
And that was The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday?
Yes.
Awesome. And we'll have links, everyone, in the show notes to all these tools and references. Man, Mike Ambassador Bruny, it's been a pleasure. A lot of value bombs dropped, a lot of tweetables, a lot of quotables. But more importantly, again, value that our audience can take away and become better leaders and build businesses, build brands, and have no more reasonable doubt. Tell everyone the best way to reach out to you, Mike, for the listeners to reach out to you to find out more about you, the business, the community, and even personally connect with you.
Yeah, you can definitely go to nomorereasonabledoubt.com.
Okay.
And then just type in Ambassador Bruny, Bruny, in the web, and you'll have a bunch of ways to connect with me, and you could do it that way.
Awesome. And then tell everybody, is there a way for them to get one of your spiffy bow ties by chance?
Yes. So thebowtieflow.com.
Oh, wow.
That is a place that you can pick it up. They're 100% made from clothing either me or my wife has owned. So they're sustainable and they look good. And 20% of the proceeds go to charity. At the moment, it's going to charity water. So we're trying to eliminate or add more water to the world, places that don't get clean water.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Love the bow tie. Love the business. Love the conversation. Thank you so much for spending the time with us, man. It's always a pleasure.
All mine.
Take care.
All right, you too.
Okay, there you have it. Episode number 7. What a conversation. You talk about valuable content. I mean, this episode was so rich in value. I mean, actionable tips, insights, all of that good stuff to help you in your professional career, right? I want to thank Mike Ambassador Bruny for hanging out with us and dropping a lot of knowledge. You know, Mike is what I consider truly a Gen X leader, someone who has really taken on a phenomenal leadership role with no more reasonable doubt. I absolutely love his program. And I think it's so excellent and first class and very much needed, especially for young professionals of color. And I applaud Mike for taking this on and not only having that clarity of purpose, but also taking action on that clarity and creating something that's so fruitful and that will help so many careers. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode of Gen X Amplified, and I hope that we took a step further to help you amplify your own personal brand and story as a leader, as an entrepreneur, and as someone just looking to take their business and life to the next level. And for all the show notes and links to the resources that we discuss, please go over to genxamplified.com/007 and share this episode on Twitter, Facebook, email, all of your social and communication platforms. All right. So that's going to do it for us. And I really appreciate you from the bottom of my heart for listening in and spending time with us. And again, if you know of anybody that's in need of some on-demand audio content that's full of value, please share this with them. Gen X Amplified, especially if they are a Gen Xer looking to take their business and life to the next level, or even if they are a millennial or a boomer. Everyone is in need of valuable content, and everyone has a story to tell. And it's up to you and it's up to us to tell that story. All right. So again, thank you so much. And until next time, all the best to your success. Take care.